McMath has been active in the UUA for over 50 years. He received his bachelor's degree in international development from CSU Sacramento and a master's degree in public administration from University of Oregon. While in grad school, he began attending the Unitarian Church in Eugene, Oregon. After graduating, Jim began his career as the youngest administrator with the city of Portland, working for the highly acclaimed Downtown Redevelopment Project. Having learned about toxin-consuming microbes being used to clean up polluted environments, Jim changed careers and began working in the field of regenerative organics, with a special focus on sustainable and cost-effective organic agriculture. To expedite the transition to biological systems to cleanse and regenerate the health of ecosystems, Jim launched a 501c3 nonprofit, Living Earth Foundation, in 2021. This nonprofit is working with the County of Los Angeles to test cleansing microbes to naturally remediate the toxicity crisis at the state's two largest solid waste landfills, with a focus on reducing the high concentrations of greenhouse gas emissions through the process of carbon sequestration. If successful, this would open the doors to implementing new protocols for dramatically reducing toxic waste buildup and greenhouse gas emissions for landfills across the nation and the world.
Good morning. Thanks so much for braving this rainy, stormy day. And also, I just want to add that I've known Keith for over 55 years. We went to high school together and junior college together. And so it's just great that we're able to reconnect after all these years here in Santa Barbara. We originally lived in Porterville. And it was last October, we were doing an event together, and he told me he used to go to the Goleta Unitarian Church, and I go, there's a Unitarian Church in Goleta, to my surprise. And so I said, well, I guess I should go check that out. So I was sitting right over there last October and introduced myself, and it was almost half the congregation came up after the service and just greeted me and welcomed me, and I've been coming ever since. I just love the fact that you have so much a sense of community and togetherness, and just want to thank the volunteers in doing this presentation today. They all worked with me closely. Your audio-visual team is incredible. They're all volunteers, the choir, as well as the staff. I mean, it is like one big extended family. I've gone to 5 different Unitarian churches, and for me, this is the most warm and together of all the churches I've gone to. So congratulations. Let me see if this is working. Oh. My apologies. Can you do that one for me, Michael? It's not working. Okay, thank you. So essentially what this presentation is about this morning is the shift in paradigms that humanity is going through right now. And quoting Joseph Campbell, which I guess is a kind of a well-known figure here in Santa Barbara, if you want to change the world, you have to change the metaphor. And here's a good illustration of, let's see. Keep going, Mike. One more time. There, now you can see it. Yeah, it was working beautiful this morning. Sorry. So we need to go to the next slide. Okay, I think it's working now. So here it's showing what's often called the old paradigm, where here it says ego. You can see at the top is a male. Let me turn this so it's closer to me. And in this dominance paradigm, not only humanity is superior and separate from all of nature, but it's the male in particular that is superior and separate from all other creatures. You can see below the male is a female. And this is what's commonly called the dominance paradigm, which is what we have been in for thousands of years. And so there, it's working. Now you can see the new paradigm, which is nature-centered, and humanity and people, the men and women, are in that circle. We're all interconnected and a part of that circle of life. So it's that shift that's going on right now that's not only wonderful, but also a cause of a lot of strife and conflict and hardship for those who are stuck in what we call the dominance paradigm. So I just want to go through a couple of my favorite quotes. This is from H.G. Wells, and he said this over 100 years ago. Civilization is in a race between education and catastrophe. Let us learn the truth and spread it as far and wide as our circumstances allow. For the truth is the greatest weapon we have. And this is from Albert Einstein. There are only two ways to live your life. One is as though nothing is a miracle, which would be the old paradigm, and the other is as though everything is a miracle. And this is one of my favorites from Chief Seattle, which is old and new paradigm. The earth was not created to serve man. Man was created to serve the earth. And here's another good one from a comic. Should I make contact so we can share all the secrets of the universe? No, that's Earth. 90% of them believe that the universe was created just for them. Intelligent life has not yet taken hold. So this just, I'm going to go on to a little bit of a sideline here, but it will make sense later in my presentation. How many stars are in our galaxy? Does anybody know the answer to that? Let's see. Over 400 million stars are in our galaxy. How many galaxies are in the universe? Anybody? Latest count over 2 trillion. And with the new telescopes, it's rapidly increasing of the known galaxies in our universe. And here's another good one. How many universes are there? Anybody know? The correct answer is we have no idea. But who is considered the greatest astrophysicist of all time, Stephen Hawking, says that he believes that the universe is infinite. It just keeps on going and going, as far as micro universe and macro universe. So, I guess the question is where would the center of the universe be? And at least in the Native American tradition, that's right here, the center of the universe. There's as many universes within our bodies as there are outside of our bodies. So something to think about. And so I just wanted to go a little bit about how I became a Unitarian. I was brought up as a PK. Does anyone know what a PK is, besides Jonathan? I grew up as a preacher's kid. So for me, as a young boy, the parsonage was right next door to the church, and the fellowship hall was just, maybe 30 steps away from our house. And so the church was my playground. I loved going there as a place to explore and discover many things about the world. But the most memorable thing that I have to remember about being a preacher's kid was going to the fellowship hall next door, which served as a community center, and listening to the various events happening there morning, noon, and night. This was at a time when there was very few people who owned televisions. So the community center is where people from all different backgrounds and activities would go for their, together events. And so it was just interesting. People seemed to be much more creative because they didn't have, the television to entertain themselves. So they often got together and entertained each other. So I kind of miss that sense of community. But as I matured, I grew more and more perplexed by my father's religion. He always referred to God as a male, and he always stated in his prayers saying, "Oh, Heavenly Father." Dad, I would ask, why don't you ever talk about the Heavenly Mother? The mother is just as important as the father, isn't it? You always tell me that God is all powerful, all present, all knowing, and all benevolent. So that doesn't say anything about God being a male. So as in my early teens, I set out to learn more about religion, and I read through all of the Bible, and I discovered, as well as studying other religions, and realized that Judaism, Christianity, and Islam all define God as a male. So it just reinforces the male dominance paradigm. And essentially, I concluded that the biblical God was a fierce, vengeful being who was a sexist, a racist, a bigot, a homophobe, and an elitist. So I can understand why a lot of people are turned off by religion as time has matured. But in reading the Bible, I found that there was one exception. I found that the teachings and messages of Jesus were all about a loving and caring God that had compassion for all beings, grand and small. But then I read further in the New Testament, and there that male-dominant God appears again with all the rules and regulations of men being superior. Women should not, for example, ever be allowed to be ministers. And, it just goes on and on. But for me, God, or the Creator, was a single energetic life force. So when our family moved to a new and very conservative location, which I guess I should mention it was Porterville, I entered high school and started a rock band in the mid-60s as part of the new peace movement. I recall that in my English class, we had many heated debates about the war in Vietnam. And in those debates, I would debate that if we really want to bring an end to war, we need to end our war with nature. And then not long after that, my English teacher announced to the class, Jim, I want you to stay after class. I have something to share with you. And I thought, oh boy, I'm in a lot of big trouble, being too controversial. And instead, to my surprise, Mrs. Hutchinson was very impressed with my views, and she introduced me to the writings of Kant, Thoreau, Emerson, Muir, Channing, Alcott, and other transcendentalists that define nature as a divine expression of the Creator, and that it was up to each individual to discover their own spiritual path and truths, rather than conforming to a set of doctrinaire dictates. It is from this point that I began exploring nature-centered philosophies such as Taoism, Buddhism, Shintoism, animism, pantheism, shamanism, and the like. But for me, the spiritual path that resonated the closest to my own personal faith was the Native American cosmologies. Let me make sure, okay. In the Native American worldview, there is the Great Spirit, which signifies the essential energy that is present and alive in all things at all times. When this energetic, holistic energy of oneness is manifest in outer form, it expresses itself in duality as the masculine and feminine spirits, commonly referred to as Father Sky and Mother Earth. The Creator thus manifests in balance and harmony in the form of those masculine and feminine energies. So let me turn this a little bit more. There is a prophecy among Native American tribes that when the eagle and the condor fly side by side, the world will awaken as one. The eagle symbolizes the masculine principle, and the condor symbolizes the feminine principle. It is said that now is precisely the time of the prophecy being fulfilled. Originally one, humanity has been in a dream of separation, awakening to realize that there is no them, but only us. In this paradigm shift, humanity is coming to understand that everything in life is an interconnected balance of the masculine and feminine principles dancing together, and that all beings are the children of the planetary family. Oops, I'm pushing the wrong buttons. Okay. With this understanding that everything in life is interconnected, that everything plays a valuable role in the healthy functioning of the whole, I came to realize that all of nature is a divine expression of the Creator that is expressed in the duality of the masculine and feminine principles. With this understanding that everything is sacred, I realized that in order for the human spirit to evolve, we are endowed with free will, that everyone has the freedom to make choices for the better or for the worse. So I became careful to judge the behavior rather than the person. Soon thereafter, I became active in the Unitarian Universalist Association over 50 years ago. I like their active commitment to peace, justice, truth, and equality, and their inclusiveness of all cultures, races, philosophies, and spiritual traditions. And most importantly, I never once ever heard a Unitarian church refer to God as a male. So, on the theme of the medicine wheel, this is the traditional symbol, traditional symbol for the earth. So if you add another circle in the middle, this is the traditional symbol for the medicine wheel. So essentially you have, well, and here are other symbols that are similar, just artistically done. So this is kind of another just additional comment. This is a crop circle that's also using the medicine wheel with a lot of sophisticated symbols in addition to the traditional medicine wheel. And I just find it interesting that over the last few decades, there have been over 10,000 crop circles that have been discovered, some of which are obviously man-made, but most of them appear overnight without any footsteps. And I find that fascinating. Why aren't we researching and trying to understand what this is all about? And if there's a galactic community, how would they first try to make contact with us other than using universal symbols of sacred geometry? And so, and if we learn how to understand each of these symbols, they're trying to communicate something to us. And so what better way to introduce themselves before the time is ready to make official contact, in person. So anyway, getting back to the medicine wheel, there's traditionally it's the north, west, south, east, and then the center. If you do it with the three-dimensional version, you have the sky, the earth below us, and then the self at the center. So there are 7 points. And of course, at the center is the divine center. So what I would like everyone to do is stand. We're going to do a ceremony of the 7 points of the medicine wheel. So everyone currently is facing the east, and east is where the sun rises. And so in that ceremony, everybody faces the east, and you can either put your hands out or towards yourself or however you want, but this is part of the ceremony. And then as we move to each location, turn to the, I guess south is that way. Each time turn, 90 degrees, and then you come back to the front. And from that point, we raise our hands to Father Sky, and then our hands down to Mother Earth. And then the last one is putting your hands over your heart, and that's the point of the center of the universe. Thank you. And just reiterating the old and new paradigm. Essentially, the old paradigm is manifest through religion of unity through conformity. And then the new paradigm is about spirituality and achieving unity in diversity, honoring and celebrating our diversity. And I found that the best description and definition of the paradigm shift in the new paradigm is the 7 principles of the Unitarian Universalist Association. And of course, they've added an 8th principle. But for me, these 7 in particular describe that new paradigm. So anyway, here's a quote from Washington Post. It is perhaps no surprise that the Unitarian Universalist Association is one of the fastest growing denominations in the country, ballooning 15.8% in the last decade. Just pointing out that the paradigm shift is moving that direction towards spirituality that encompasses and embraces all diversity, and that it's time we make that shift. And I've come to realize that the old paradigm served a purpose at that time, and it's not until now that we're ready for that shift. So I don't want to discriminate against the old paradigm. I'm just saying it was like the egg of an embryo, and that once the embryo matured, that eggshell broke open and it no longer served a purpose. But it was essential, for the development of that new birth. So here's another quote from Rumi: "You are not a drop in the ocean, you are the entire ocean in a drop." And so I just want to say that each and every one of you is unique and special. There will, through all the universes in the past, present, and future, there will never be another you just like you. Each one of you has a very special purpose and design. And so it's important to understand that even though everything is connected, each and every one of you serves a very valuable role. And so I honor, that uniqueness that each of you have. So thank you.